In today's show, we talk about Trailblazers lineups we need to see in certain situations, plus an update on how to watch this team on television. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making the show your first listen. Coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, so make it a part of your daily routine. Make it first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, I want to have some fun talking Blazers lineups. Now that we're kind of getting into the meat of training camp, one of the most fun things to think about for me is kind of like how the puzzle fits together. And I've already shared some of my favorites earlier this summer, so I want to get into some situation-specific lineups that I hope and trust that the Blazers, I don't know if I trust, I hope that the Blazers will roll out. Plus, a little bit of journalism for you at the end of the show. We'll close the show in the third segment, talking Trailblazers, how to watch the Trailblazers on TV. It's not as simple as maybe I initially thought. There are easy ways to do it, but there are. I just want to make sure we all are clear as we head into the season, and I want to give you the most information I possibly can. I want to educate you, dear listener, so you can make choices. Some of are limited, but so you can make some choices about sort of how it's going to work for you to watch this basketball team, and I've got a little reporting around that. Let's talk lineups, though. If you're a longtime listener to the program, shout out to my everydayers. You know that I think in the regular season, kind of once a game starts, the main thing a coach does to decide who plays and when. I think you do some prep beforehand, and I think there's, when you draw up ATOs, you can have an impact, and obviously, some coaches are better than others at making in-game adjustments, but the biggest thing you do during the 82-game slog of a season is decide who plays and when, because talent is going to win out and fit is going to win out, and if you get the right pieces on the court, that matters. Rotations aren't everything, but I think they are. To me, they are the biggest thing in often deciding the outcome of games, or maybe tipping the scales, because talent is going to be the thing that decides the outcome of a lot of these games during the regular season, because they just keep trucking on. Earlier this summer, I gave my, if the Blazers want to play fast, if the Blazers want to have their best shooting lineup, their best defensive lineup, what I predicted will be their starting lineup. I kind of gave the basics. In today's show, I want to get into the nitty gritty, kind of the situational lineups, like when things are, when you get into really specific settings, who should be out on the court. Call a late game timeout. The other team calls a late game timeout. Who should come out of the huddle and why? And I think that's what we'll get into today. And I think it'll help kind of think about this team's general skill sets. I'm not going to do my disappearing lineup trick. It's unfair to do it before the preseason because guys can get hurt, or maybe they'll, or things change, or we'll get some stuff. My disappearing lineup trick, I do it every year. I share a lineup that I most want to see, and then that lineup just magically never plays together by some weird dark magic trick. So I'll do that right before the season starts, right before game one of the regular season. I'll unveil my disappearing lineup trick. I'm good at it. When I share you the numbers behind that, it's pretty incredible. So today's show is not disappearing lineup. It's not the best lineups. It's the situational lineup. So what's the first situation I want to get into here? It's the need a bucket lineup. You're down one, you're in a tie game, you need any kind of basket, right? You just needed the ball to go in the basket. I think this is the Blazers starting lineup. I think you come out of a timeout, 17 seconds left, down one, and you need to score. You're going to just go with that starting group, because I think that starting group offers you the most balance in terms of getting shooters on the court. And typically in late game situations, in the 17 seconds left, need a bucket. Say the game's tied, right? And you're going to hold for the last shot. If you're going to hold for the last shot, you're almost certainly just going to run one of two things. Probably ISO. If it's tied, ISO, because it's really important to take actually the last shot and not get into an action where we put the ball up with 3 seconds left, and now they get a rebound with 2.8 and they get to call a timeout, and now we're going to lose, right? Like, you actually need it to be the last shot of the game. That's important. So you're probably going to run ISO when it's tied, but even in down 1 with 17 seconds left, you don't typically see teams run a lot of elaborate stuff once you get into it, right? You might run some elaborate stuff to get like one side of the floor cleared out, or get your guy on his preferred side of the floor, like Luka Doncic going left type of thing. But like, you're not going to run a bunch of action and a bunch of passes, right? Because that's gonna cause a bunch of timing stuff with like off-ball actions, and things can get messy, and a bunch of passes, just every time you pass the ball, the chances that you turn it over are higher. Like, ISO teams are typically low turnover teams. So like, you're going to run 2-man stuff, pick and roll, or you're going to run ISO stuff. And I think the Blazers starting lineup, when you have Jeremy Grant and Anfernee Simons, their 2 best ISO players, your best pick and roll big man is going to be DeAndre Ayton. Denny Avdia gives you that shooting and secondary playmaking, so if things break down, you can kick it to him and make it happen. He's maybe not a great shooter, but like, certainly the best of the options by a lot. And Shaedon Sharp's maybe not there yet. This is your presumed starting lineup: Anfernee Simons, Shaedon Sharp, Denny Avdia, Jeremy Grant, and DeAndre Ayton, to be clear. And Shaedon Sharp he's maybe not there in terms of like great ISO scoring and all of that stuff, but he's in theory a decent shooter. He wasn't great last year, but the shot looks pretty good. He has a little bit of individual offense where he can score on his own. And like, in late game situations, another guy you could throw it to, be like, oh no, grenade, it didn't work out. And like, Shaedon is comfortable pulling up from the mid-range, which is crucial in late game situations. He's comfortable attacking. Like, I think your need a bucket lineup is your starting lineup. I think your starting lineup is your best lineup. I think that's putting your 5. I don't know if it's your 5 best players, like on sort of overall talent or whatever, but because Rob Williams is pretty good, but it's hard to get your 5 like best players on the court with like the way it all works. I think your need a bucket lineup, late game need a bucket lineup, is your presumed starting group. But what if you tweak it a little bit? You need a bucket, but it's a 3. And I think this is an important distinction, right? Because if you need a 3, say 8 seconds left, you're down 114, 111. You need to shoot a 3, right? You're out of timeout, so you can't even really play the foul game because it's going to get too messy. This is a we need to make a 3 to give ourselves a chance type of thing. I think you still roll out with Anfernee Simons. He's your best off the dribble. I know you roll out with Anfernee Simons. He's your best offensive player. He's your best off the dribble creator in terms of shooting. He's certainly your best 3-point shooter in terms of volume and difficulty of shots. He's your best off the dribble 3-point shooter. Like, he has to be on the court. Jeremy Grant shot 40% both his seasons in Portland. He's going to be on the court too. Denny, for the reasons I mentioned in the previous lineup, like, he's a better shooter than your other forward options, and he's got some creation ability. So maybe you can drive and kick, and make it happen a little bit. Although it's hard to drive and kick in late games when they know you need a 3, because they're not going to help the same way they do early in games. You kind of need guys who can create their own shot. That's why it has to be Shaedon Sharp too. It's 4 of your 5 starters have to be on the court. I do not think you can include DeAndre Ayton in the need a 3 lineup. So I think the sort of like conventional quote unquote answer is that you put Duop Reath in the game. Of your big men, he's your best shooter. But in these situations, you aren't beholden to positions, right? Like, 8 seconds left, need a 3. You're not beholden to putting a center out on the court. That's not the rule. The problem is, if you like look at the Blazers bench, it ain't exactly chock full of shooters. Like, the roster is the roster. They're probably going to struggle to shoot all year, although they might be a little better than they were last year, assuming some better health. But like, this is not going to be a high-level 3-point shooting team. There's a chance that they are not the worst 3-point shooting team in the league, but they're going to be they're going to struggle, right? Like, that's still not a skill set that they have in spades by any means. But hear me out here. I think Duop is kind of the obvious answer, but I would probably put Toumani Camara in your need a 3 lineup for a couple reasons. One, I think Toumani's an okay screener for someone his size, and you're going to need to set a nice screen to get somebody open. He's a good offensive rebounder, so if you take an early 3, he's going to be a guy who crashes and can keep things alive. He was a decent shooter on low volume at the end of last season. That doesn't mean that you like put Toumani in to take the shot. It means that you kind of put enough shooters on the court to keep defenses honest. Like, if you put okay, we're going to put Donovan Clingan in the game to set a good screen. Well, they're just going to ignore him, right? They're just going to send 2 to the ball. Like they're going to put everybody in and switch everything and ignore, because they know the twos aren't going to hurt him. So my idea for your need a 3, like down 3 with 8 seconds left, 114, 111, down 3 with 8 seconds left. Anthony Simons, Shaden Sharp, Denny Avdia, Jeremy Grant, and Tumani Kamara, because you're going to get some shooting at every single spot. So if the ball kind of like, oops, it found the wrong person because of defensive scrambling and that stuff, you're always going to have someone who's like at least somewhat capable of shooting a 3. You still have your shot creators with Ant and Shea and Jeremy Grant and Denny on the court. And you've got your crashers. You've got Denny and you've got 2 to kind of keep rebounds alive with athleticism, and you don't have anyone slow. Duop is a better shooter than Tumani, I think, but like it's just a little bit different. It's a little bit different of a calculation, and I'm not going to be mad at you if you want Duop in the game. Absolutely have to have him in the game, but I think for if you think it's going to be Jeremy Grant or Anthony Simons shooting this 3, give me another wing on there for just sort of like the logical purposes. Although maybe if you think that Duop can set a mean screen, he's a pretty good screener, certainly a better screener than DeAndre Ayton, then put him in. I have no problem with that. Okay, I've got, what was my list looking like? I got 4 other lineups. Join me in the second segment with 4 other lineups, some situational stuff, how the Blazers can play things when we get into the nitty-gritty of the season. Join me in that second segment, won't ya? First, though, I want to tell you about FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook, and if you are an NFL fan, which you might be because many of you, according to my stats, are North American listeners. If you're an NFL fan, well, FanDuel is making it fun to watch NFL games this season. If you're into watching NFL games and you've ever had a hunch or just an inkling to live bet games, well, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on that hunch, get in on the inkling. Right there on the app, super easy to use app, super clean. You can pull up the latest stats and the latest play-by-play, and it's all on the same page that you place your bet. So you can say like, oh, I want to place, live bet for someone to go over 100 yards. How many yards do they have? Oh, 82. Okay, I like that. That's a good one. Or it's like, I bet they're going to score on this possession. Where do they have the ball and how much time is left? You can see that right there in the app. Plus, if you're a new user, you get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. All right, let's talk more Blazers lineups here. We talked offense. Let's flip the side of the ball, talk defense. I mentioned the Blazers' sort of best defensive lineups, but when you think about best defensive lineups, you do have to think about like balancing the other side, right? You're not just playing one possession, but I want to talk about when you are just playing one possession. How do you treat it when you are playing one possession? When you one stop up 2, one stop up 2. So, you take the lead. You're up 122, 120. They get the ball back. There's 6.5 seconds left. They're going to go, but they can take any type of shot. Like if in a 2-point game, they can take a 3. They can drive to the rim. Like they can, they could try to get fouled. They could, bait you into a foul. Like they can do anything here. One stop up 2 is a hard possession to defend. One stop up 3, like I mentioned with the Blazers in the need of 3 stuff, it's a little bit different. But one stop up 2, you need to have rim protection and you need to have real defenders in there. So for me, I go with your absolute best defensive players and say we're going to win this game because we can defend. So that's Matisse Thybulle, that's Denny Avdia, that's Tumani Kamara, that's Jeremy Grant, and that's Rob Williams. I'm assuming, perfect health, Rob Williams, able to play at the end of the game, all of that stuff, right? But I think this gives you the versatility to switch a lot, which you might need to. But it's not a lot. You're not going to run like 6.5 seconds left or whatever. You're not going to say they even get a full clock, right? They can go, but it's a 18 seconds or whatever. So they might be able to run a couple different actions or run like an action as secondary if that gets blown up. But you're not going to really have to switch everything. But you do want to be competent at every spot, right? You don't want them to be able to pick on someone, because I think this has happened a couple times in the sort of Chauncey Billups era where it's like he leaves Dame in for a defense-only possession, or he leaves Anthony Simons in for a defense-only possession. And it's like, where are they going to go? Like the other team's going to just go. They're going to go at that. There was, and I understand, like, particularly with Damian Lillard, it's like there's a hierarchy thing where it's like weird to be like, hey man, you got to sit. But like that's the job of coaching. Hey man, you got to sit. And like, there's an art to it, right? There's an art to it. You got to be able to convince someone. I think Billups has done that a handful of times over his career, where it's just like, what is TJ McCollum doing in for this final possession? Like, this is a defense only possession. You're playing two small guards. What is happening? So that's why I would like say Matisse Thybulle hasn't played since the first half, or he's played like he's played 9 minutes in the game. It's like 6 seconds left. This is what you get paid to do. Go guard, Tease. Say like Tumani's having a brutal game, or Rob Williams just like, he had one shift in the first half. It wasn't very good. It's like one possession to win it. This is the lineup I want. Matisse Thybulle, Denny Avdia, Tumani Kamara, Jeremy Grant, and Rob Williams. I actually think the Blazers have, assuming that they stay relatively healthy, I think they have a team to be okay on defense. Maybe not like really good, because they're going to have to play Anfernee Simons like 35 minutes a night to have a functional offense, just like the nature of the team. And I think Scoot Henderson's going to be pretty bad on defense this year. And Shane Sharp has not been a good defender, right? And it's like you might be playing enough negative defenders that doesn't really matter. But I do think the Blazers have some plus defenders. Like Denny's a plus defender, Tumani's a plus defender. Matisse Thybulle is unique, but he's a plus defender. I think Jeremy Grant can be, but is mostly like a neutral to bad defender. DeAndre Ayton, I would put in that same camp, neutral to bad defender. Rob Williams could be a plus defender. Really see what Klingon is like. Chances are he's neutral to bad as a rookie, but he might be really good protecting the rim. There are Walker Kesslers of the world. Walker Kessler came in as a rookie and was really good protecting the rim. Wasn't nearly as good in year 2, which was interesting, but like, I think the Blazers have some personnel to put out some decent defensive lineups. And if you need one stop up 2, this is the group I would go with. But what if it was one stop up 3? They have to take a 3. I'm not putting a center on the court when you know they need to take a 3. I want to switch everything across the board. So all of the stuff like when they're coming in, when they're setting it up and they're getting the ball in bounds, bringing the ball in bounds, I want to switch every action there. I don't want to worry about screens. I don't want to worry about anything. I want 5 players on the floor who can switch every action like prior to the ball getting inbounded, because I don't want to chase. I don't want to be chasing. Like if they need a 3, they're probably going to take the first one, the good look they get at it. So if you get yourself caught in a chase, you're going to give up an early one. I want to switch everything. So I would run that same group with Denny Avdia, with Matisse Thybulle, with Tumani Kamara, with Jeremy Grant, but I would put in Chris Murray. I'll put in Chris Murray because I'm not running a real center. Murray is a pretty good defensive player. He is enough of a negative on offense, or was as a rookie. Obviously, his career's in front of him, but he was as a rookie that it's just hard for him to get on the floor. Like it's hard for him to get on the floor in a competitive setting because he just doesn't have it on offense. Like people said, like the shooting isn't there. Well, he doesn't do anything else on offense either, right? Like obviously, he really struggles with the shooting, and that's going to be the thing that unlocks his game. But it's not like he's this like elite rim finisher and like high level passer. He can dribble a little bit, he can pass a little bit, but he just doesn't like he can't. He is a negative in the half court right now. But Duke can defend. That is not his problem. He was a pretty versatile defender. They gave him a lot of opportunities. I thought he's pretty physical on defense. He has a great deal of want to, which is a big part of it. Like he's interested in defending. And give me one stop up 3, give me 5 guys who I'm comfortable with them guarding every player on the perimeter. And with that group, when it is Denny and when it is Matisse Thybulle and Tumani and Jeremy Grant and throw in Chris Murray, I'm comfortable with all of those dudes guarding in isolation for a little bit and contesting a 3-pointer. I wouldn't be worried about you. The ball comes in bounds. Whoever gets the rock, let's call it De'Aaron Fox. Or DeMar DeRozan. Actually, I think it's kind of interesting who takes the last shot for the Kings. But it's like whoever it might be. Let's call him Malik Monk. Malik Monk gets it, and he's just going to like size up and take a 3, right? I'm comfortable with any of those dudes taking that isolation defensive assignment. So whatever the switching before the ball gets inbounded, as the ball's coming in bounds, whatever that switching delivers you out top, I would be comfortable with any of those 5 guarding one possession in isolation. And I think that speaks to kind of the Blazers' defensive talent. It's not like elite, but I think it has a chance to be okay. I think it has I think the Blazers have a defensive ceiling of like, I don't know, 17th or something like that. And I think they could flirt with higher than that during the season. Obviously, like We will be filtering out the tanking part of the process to get to our 17 ranking. We'll be cherry picking a little bit because obviously things change. Okay, a couple other lineups real quick. What about up to but under 0.4 left? If there's 0.4 on the clock, a guy can get a catch and shoot shot off. That's according to the rules. But if there's under 0.4 seconds left, then it has to be a tap. It has to be a tap. You can't catch it and shoot it. So let's say there's 0.2 left. They have to throw a lob. This is when we're going to see the triple big lineup. So I'm going to put Rob Williams on the ball. Rob Williams guarding the inbound passer. And I'm going to put Donovan Clingan and DeAndre Ayton at the rim. Say, don't go anywhere. There's no defensive 3 seconds. There's no goaltending. Don't go anywhere. When they throw it to the rim, swat it away and we're going to win the game. And then on the wings, I guess just like Jeremy Grant and Denny. But this is my dream, is that we get one possession with all 3 centers on the court. Let's go! All 3 with Rob, DA, and Clingan. Okay, and then very quickly, the not our night lineup. The Blazers are probably going to get thrashed a handful of times this year, maybe several handfuls, maybe a bushel of times. They might get thrashed. Let's say they get thrashed a bushel of times this year. I'm talking like you're down 17 at halftime. You're like, well, they weren't that bad. They just had a bad close to the second quarter. You hit a couple threes. This is a 10-point game heading into the fourth, and then anything could happen. But it doesn't go that way. Instead, the other team scores, 12-2 out of halftime, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, we're down 27. Whoops. And then you take a timeout and you kind of just say well, there's 3.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Not our night. We play tomorrow, or this is game 5 of a 6-game road trip. Not our night. Let's pull it. In the not our night lineup, I'd like to see Scoot Henderson, Ryan Rupert, Chris Murray, Jabari Walker, and Duop Reith close out your third quarter on the not our night lineup, because I think I like the Scoot and Duop Reith pairing as a pick and roll pairing. Give me the young wings on to see what they could do. Give me Rupert and Murray and Walker and see what they can do as an interchangeable trio. And then when you can't play that lineup the whole game, and then eventually bring in Donovan Clingan and a little bit of Delano Banton. But I think that not our night lineup gives you a little bit of functionality even in a blowout, and maybe you could see some stuff, because sometimes when you're losing and you see some stuff, guys play hard or they have a good chemistry or something. It's like, hey, well, that was a miserable night, but one thing we learned is that this works. And maybe when we go into a night that's less miserable, we can learn something. And I think that not our night lineup with Scoot, Rupert, Chris Murray, Jabari Walker, and Duop Reith gives you a chance to maybe find tinker with a little bit, because I think Ryan Rupert was better as a shooter than I thought he would be, and maybe he provides a little bit of spacing. You get the hustle and grit of the Walker Murray combo, and then you get a pick and pop big playing with Scoot. That's your not your night lineup. Okay. The Blazers are going to be easier to watch in theory, but I think in practice it's going to require knowing how it works for you and your situation. And I have said some things about where the Blazers are going to be available, and according to the reporting that I have done, I was wrong about those things. They're not going to be readily available in all the places that I had once thought. Join me in that third segment. We'll talk about how to watch the Blazers on TV with some fresh reporting from here on from the good people of Locked On Blazers. Join me there, won't you? Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You're still listening to Locked On Blazers. Okay. So I've said in passing a couple times prior to the Blazers announcing their TV deal that they would indeed be available on YouTube TV and Hulu, on the big streaming services. And so if you wanted to make that the way you watch TV, then they would be available there. That's not entirely true. But let's talk about where the team is available first. One, they're available on the antenna, right? You grab yourself a digital antenna. You'll be able to pick up the K2 stations. That's on your antenna. This is maybe a little more info than you need, but I think it'll help you understand it. The K2 channels are 2.1 and 2.2. The majority of Blazer games are going to be on 2.2. That channel is called Charge. And right now, that Charge channel is not in 1080p, but according to the Blazers, it will be by the time we get to Gametime, when we get to the regular season, late October, prior to the first game of the season. So I think the preseason game, if you're watching on antenna, might be kind of crappy transmission, but it'll be in higher broadcast quality, HD broadcast quality, over antenna, free to your TV. Once the regular season starts, you'll get the majority of your games there. So that's the simplest way to do it, right? That way, obviously, if you're watching on antenna, that doesn't have DVR. And I know many of you are like me and you have small children and you're like, I can't watch the game live. I'm parenting or whatever it is. Maybe you work, right? And you just you can't catch the games live. If you need DVR, I think the the situation is a little bit limited. But over the air, it'll be on an antenna. You can just pick it up with your antenna. It's also available on Blazer Vision. If you locate in Oregon and Washington, you can subscribe to the Blazers digital package for $120 a year. It's about $1.50 per game. That option also does not have DVR, but it is a digital option. You can watch games after they air. You just have to wait, I believe, an hour for them to end and then watch them. So if you're someone who like rewatches them in the morning or what have you, that could be an option for you. But no, you can't digitally record those games. I think that's a hard way to do things. So I had thought, though, that the solution would just be to stick to your streamers, right? To the YouTube TVs and the Hulus of the world. And I have YouTube TV. I've actually kind of resisted saying that here because I want them to pay me to talk about what kind of TV I have, but I got YouTube TV is a service I use, and I have Charge, right? I have the Charge channel on there. That's the 2.2 channel. That's where the majority of Blazer games are going to be on. In fact, prior to January 1st, this is from the Trailblazers, 8 games will be available on K2, the big channel. That's 2.1. That's on your local ABC affiliate here in Portland. But the majority of games prior to January will be on 2.2, and those aren't going to be on Hulu. Those aren't going to be on YouTube TV because currently the Charge channel you're seeing on your digital dial is the national feed. It's not the local. It's not the local feed. It's not going to be the local feed. So you will not at least until at least January, you will not be able to watch the Blazers on the big streaming services, YouTube TV and Hulu. If you have, if you've got the antenna, you can make it happen. If you buy the digital package, Blazer Vision, you can make it happen. But on your current setup, even if you have the channel, that channel is not going to broadcast Blazer games until at least January. So in January, KUNP, which is Univision, is going to switch over to Rip City TV. That's RCTV, but it'll switch over to the local Blazer feed. Univision's going to go away, and we'll get RCTV, right? And then you'll have Blazer games. But, and I think this is important, at that point in January, so that is it, the earliest it could happen is January 1st, 2025. But at that point, Sinclair will negotiate with the streaming providers, that's Hulu and that's YouTube TV, to get that new channel on the services. So it's not like it's just going to happen and it's going to flip. It's going to cause one of these annoying negotiation things where, the streamers have to agree to carry a channel, et cetera, and that can kind of cause a little bit of that's like the angst the Blazers basically have been up against with the regional sports networks in the past. That is a challenge. So there are more ways to watch this team, right? And there are better ways to watch this team. The antenna is free, and there's no distribution challenges and all of those things. Blazer Vision as a subscription, that's direct to you, right? That's the direct to consumer products. If you just want to I want my freaking Blazer games, it's $120. Obviously, I don't want to dismiss the price. Everything is a subscription nowadays, and not all of us can afford just to throw $120 at watching Blazer games, right? Plenty of us live lives where that is maybe not an option on top of all the other things we have to pay for in life, or on top of TV. It's I can't pay another $100 this year for television. Although I do think it's a relatively reasonable price. But if you are in market, you're not going to get the games on your streamers. You're going to get the games. You're going to get the games on your over-the-air antenna. You're going to get the games on your Blazer Vision, but not on Hulu and not on YouTube TV to begin the season. And it could happen in January, but the earliest, the negotiations will begin or can begin January 1st, 2025, once Univision goes away on your local channels. And that is how it will work. The best way to watch them is probably going to be the antenna. The best way to watch them is to live slightly outside the market area and subscribe to League Pass. That's unfortunately still probably the best way to watch them, because you can start games after it has the record function, and start them after they've, after they've start at the beginning type of thing. So, this is, I just want to have that point of clarity. You in your own home can figure out how it all works. And I think this is maybe bumpier than the Blazers wanted it to be, but there are more simple ways to catch the games, but there isn't this is easy. I think that's just the challenge of distributing regional sports nowadays. Easier but not easy. It's not just capitally easy. It's easier than it has been, and they're working towards it. I imagine by next season this will probably be straightened out one way or another. But that's how it works. That's a little reporting with this information directly from the horse's mouth, from the Trailblazers organization themselves. I got the sort of the clarifications here. You'll be able to watch 8 games prior to January on K2 on your local TV here in Portland. And this is specific to Portland fans. If you are outside of the market and you're listening to me, I'm going to be honest. It's going to be hard to speak to these specific situations. I'll do my best. Email me, lockedonblazerspod@gmail.com. I'll ask questions on your behalf. That's how I got down this rabbit hole. As a listener emailed me and asked me this, and a couple other people had reached out. But it asked like, hey, I have a specific question about YouTube TV and Hulu. And that's how we got here. I'll do my best to be a reporter. I call myself a Trailblazers reporter, pass first point guard, Trailblazers reporter. I am a pass first point guard. That's who I am. I'll try to be the best Trailblazers reporter I can be as well. So if you have questions, lockedonblazerspod@gmail.com, and I will get them to you as best I can. Okay, that's it for Thursday's show. Come back for Friday. We got 5 of these. It's what we do. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.